Good morning and welcome to our platforms nrpmediaja.com, also Facebook and YouTube at nrpmediaja. It's Tuesday, February 20. I am Leon Nash with the NRP Break of Day Newscast. Here are the headlines. PNP President Mark Golding has blasted the JLP administration for what he calls a history of unfulfilled promises. Shadow Minister for Health once again raises concerns regarding the Cornwall Regional Hospital CRH rehabilitation project. Government to spend $845 million in its continued threat and the shift system in schools. And in sports, British number one Cameron Norrie starts defense of his ATP Real Open with winning streaks. The note to you courtesy of NRP Radio, reaching you where you are. No boundaries, no limitations. Celebrating 3 years since our inception, the NRP brand of radio and other social media platforms on NRP Media JA is your newest online platform accessible for the promotion of your church and community activities, along with news and sports related information. It's the platform you have been longing for. So call us today at 876-336-9928 or email us at nationalreligiousmedia@gmail.com.
NRP Media and Radio, reaching you where you are. No boundaries, no limitations.
And now the details of the news. PNP President Mark Golding has blasted the JLP administration for what he calls a history of unfulfilled promises, which he brands as diarrhea of promises. The comments by Mr. Golding was made during his tour of communities in St. Elizabeth. Mr. Golding highlighted the lack of substantial progress during the JLP's 8-year tenure, urging voters to embrace change. In stark contrast to the lack of accountability and progress by the JLP, which has left citizens across the nation feeling neglected and betrayed, Golding outlined his vision for change under his leadership. He emphasized that transparency, accountability, and citizens' interest would be the pillars of the PNP's governance. Golding assured the public that when elected, his party will prioritize addressing the needs of local communities and promoting genuine national development from the grassroots or local level. The PNP president called upon the supporters and all Jamaicans seeking meaningful change to remain loyal to the PNP, underscoring what he says was the PNP's enduring commitment to local government issues, highlighting the party's proven track record of championing nationwide. Mr. Golding says that under his leadership, the PNP aims to confront pressing issues faced by local communities, focusing on the transformative potential of effective local governance. Meanwhile, Dr. Alfred Dawes, the PNP Shadow Minister for Health, has once again raised grave concerns regarding the Cornwall Regional Hospital rehabilitation project. Dr. Dawes has, as a result, called for an immediate audit of the project to ensure accountability and efficient use of taxpayers' funds. In a statement last evening, Dr. Dawes pointed out that the Cornwall Regional Hospital rehabilitation project has been plagued by escalating costs and indefinite variations in scope. Dr. Dawes says that from his inception, cost estimates have ballooned from a few $100 million to a staggering $4 billion. He reminded that initially, then Shadow Minister of Health Dr. Maurice Guy had warned that full rehabilitation may potentially cost as much as $12 billion, but his comments were rubbished. Dr. Dawes says that despite those warnings, the government has since put forward a current budget allocation of $21 billion for the CRH project. He says that with countless missed deadlines and limited information on the project's scope, cost overruns, and performance bonds, it is highly likely that even further delays and cost increases will be encountered. Dr. Dawes further pointed out that with the current budget allocation exceeding the entire annual budget of several ministries and is almost equivalent to the budget of the whole Ministry of Local Government, this mismanagement of funds could have far-reaching consequences for the provision of essential services across various sectors of the Jamaican economy. He laid the blame for the cost overruns squarely at the feet of the entire cabinet, as according to him, critical decisions regarding the CRH renovation are being driven by political interest rather than expert advice and technical guidance. The shadow minister is imperative that the cabinet collectively takes responsibility for accounting for how taxpayers' funds have been spent. Dr. Dawes reiterated that the People's National Party remains committed to advocating for the rights and well-being of all Jamaicans and steadfastly stand against corruption, inefficiency, and mismanagement of particularly in critical areas of healthcare. In other news, the government will be spending $845 million in its continued thrust to end the shift system and reduce overcrowding in schools by constructing additional classrooms and other amenities during the upcoming fiscal year. Among the projects listed in the 2024-2025 estimates of expenditure are the completion of architectural and civil structural designs for Dias Infant School and Papine and Newell High Schools. Expansion works will commence at 11 schools: Dias Infant, Boundbrook Primary, and Port Antonio, Aberdeen, Bel Air, Denham Town, Nain, New Forest, Stony Hill, Westwood, and Papine High Schools. The government also expects to complete works on a watershed treatment system at Papine High School and share lifts at Sydney Pagan High School. Also scheduled for completion is the construction of classrooms at 7 schools. These include Exchange Primary and Bridgeport, Jonathan Grant, Homewood Technical, Albertstown, Cedric Titus, and Westwood High Schools. The allocation will also cover the completion of electrical upgrading works at 11 schools. These include Little London and Savannah Lamar Primary Schools and Alston, McGrath, Homewood, Guys Hill, Spanish Town, Jonathan Grant, Glengough, Seaforth, and High School. While security fencing works will be completed at Galena Primary and Infant, Eccleston, Nagohead, Bridgeport, Parrytown, Retirement, Windsor Forest, Johns Hall, and Brixton Hill Primary Schools, and Kingston and Anotoby High Schools. The project, which initially ran from April 2020 to March 2023, has been extended to March 2025 and further to March 2028. The 2024-2025 estimates of expenditure was tabled in the House of Representatives by Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, on February 15. And the government will be constructing and operationalizing 6,826 square feet of Justice Center in Maypen, Clarendon, to facilitate the provision of restorative justice, child mediation services. Funding for the project, which is expected to cost $54.3 million, is earmarked in the 2024-2025 estimates of expenditure recently tabled in the House of Representatives by Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark. Work is expected to commence on the Clarendon Justice Center's construction in fiscal year 2024-2025 and attain 35% completion. The government has set aside more than $1 billion for the National HIV/AIDS Response in Jamaica project during the 2024-2025 fiscal year. The program is geared at reducing AIDS-related morbidity by providing effective biomedical and supporting services and reducing new HIV infections among key populations through behavioral and structural interventions. Full information of the project is outlined in the 2024-2025 estimates of expenditure, which will be considered by the Standing Finance Committee of the House of Representatives. 54% of people living with HIV were engaged on the antiretroviral therapy program. It achieved 79% placement on virological suppression, while 91% of people newly diagnosed with HIV were put on the ART intervention. You're listening to news on NRP Radio, your primary Christian source for news, sports, and the weather on nrpmediaja.com. Reaching you where you are, no boundaries, no limitations.
Hi, I'm Genevieve.
And I'm Kalisha. And we are the Christ All Praises. You're listening to NRP Media and Radio. Reaching you where you are. No boundaries, no limitations.
Now let's give you some sporting information brought to you by Hepburn's Glass, located at 13 Chisholm Avenue in Kingston.
Hepburn's Glass Appliance is the latest trend-setting supplier of glass and mirrors in the industry. We specialize in tinted and clear glasses, as well as mirrors for all your windows, doors, and closets at very competitive prices. To maximize your shopping experience, we stock 316 and 1/8 mirror thickness and 316 and quarter thickness in our entire stock of float glasses. We have in stock gloves, cutters, and suction cups at unbeatable prices. Our customer service is second to none, with same-day cutting for your specific measurements. Visit our office at 13 Chisholm Avenue, Kingston 13. Call us at 9080962 or email hepburn.glass@gmail.com. Hepburn's Glass. Quality service is our priority.
And we tee off on tennis in our sports stories this morning. British number one Cameron Norrie started the defense of his ATP Rio Open title with a routine 6-3, 6-2 win over Bolivian Hugo Delin in Brazil. The 28-year-old Norrie made light work of an opponent who gave him a tough time at the quarterfinal stage in 2023. It took Norrie, who offered up just one break point in the match, 1 hour and 21-minute victory. He will meet Chile's Thomas Barrios Vera for the first time in his career in the next round. On football, Crystal Palace have appointed former Eintracht Frankfurt boss Oliver Glasner as their new manager. The 49-year-old Austrian replaces Roy Hodgson, who stepped down on Monday, so Palace could bring forward their plans to appoint a new manager at the end of the season. Palace are 15th in the Premier League after 10 defeats in the past 17 games. Glasner has signed a contract until June 26 and will be in charge for a game against Burnley. He was pictured watching Tottenham's defeat by Wolves on Saturday, with Spurs hosting Palace on March 2. England spiraled to a miserable and massive defeat by India on the fourth day of the third test in Rajkot, in perhaps their worst performance since captain Ben Stokes and coach Brendan McCullum took charge. England was dismantled by Yashaz Vijay's whilst 214 not out, then capitulated with the bat. Set a national 557 to win, the Tourists were bundled out for an embarrassing 122 in a blur of irresponsible strokes. The 434-run margin of defeat is England's largest in terms of runs since 1934 and India's biggest of all time. Lionel Messi has highlighted his special ties with China as he continues to face anger from Chinese fans for missing a game in Hong Kong. In a video on social media site Weibo, Messi maintained an injury had led him to sit out the match on February 4. Messi played in Japan just days after that Hong Kong friendly, enraging fans in China, where he is hugely popular. The backlash against the 36-year-old superstar has dragged on for weeks. Chinese officials have cancelled 2 Argentina friendlies due to take place in the country in March. The world champions were set to face Nigeria in Hangzhou and Ivory Coast in Beijing. But football authorities in the Chinese capital said Beijing does not plan for the moment to organize the match in which Lionel Messi was to participate. That's sports in our NRP Break of Day newscast, brought to you by Hepburn's Glass, located at 13 Chisholm Avenue in Kingston. We promise to bring you a good news story as often as we can. If you know of or are aware of any event or person whose good story we should highlight, please send this information to our email address at nationalreligiousmediaja@gmail.com or call our WhatsApp 876-336-9928. That's the local news and sports. Stand by now for the latest international news courtesy of the Voice of America.
This is VOA News. I'm Tommy McNeil. Israel has ordered new evacuations from parts of Gaza City, an indication it still faces stiff resistance in areas it said were cleared weeks ago. UNICEF, meanwhile, says 1 in 6 children are acute malnourished in the isolated and largely devastated north of the territory where the city is located. The report finds deepening misery across the territory, where Israel's air and ground offensive launched in response to Hamas's October 7th attack has killed over 29,000 Palestinians. A top UN court has opened hearings into the legality of Israel's occupation of land sought for a Palestinian state. AP's Karen Chamas.
The session before the International Court of Justice comes following a request by the UN General Assembly. The Assembly asked the court for a non-binding advisory opinion into Israel's policies in the occupied territories. Palestinian Foreign Affairs Minister Riyad al-Maliki opened the presentation by Palestinian representatives.
Acquisition of territory by force, persecution, racial discrimination and apartheid against the people, denial of self-determination are all grave violations of the most fundamental norms of international law. There is a legal and moral obligation to bring them to a prompt end.
The session will last 6 days and judges will likely take months to issue an opinion. I'm Karen Chamas.
Ukraine's military says its troops had taken up a new defensive position in the east after retreating from the captured town of Avdiivka.
Military footage released by Ukraine shows scenes from the battlefield, including Ukrainian soldiers barricading inside industrial buildings. Andriy Tirin, a commander in the 110th Brigade, said Russia has exhausted the defenders.
That's Reuters' Olivia Zelino. This is VOA News.
That was the latest international news from the VOA. Now for the weather forecast. The National Meteorological Service is reporting that there is a significant feature of a cold front west of Jamaica. The cold front is expected to gradually move across the island tonight into tomorrow morning. Expect increased cloudiness and showers tonight through to Tuesday evening, and windy conditions across western parishes. Cooler than normal temperatures are also expected tomorrow through to Thursday. In the 24-hour forecast this morning, cloudy with occasional showers across western and north central parishes, partly cloudy elsewhere. This afternoon, cloudy with occasional showers across central and western and eastern parishes, that is. In the 3-day forecast after today, Wednesday, partly cloudy in the morning across eastern parishes, otherwise mostly sunny. Partly cloudy in the afternoon, windy across western parishes. On Thursday and Friday, mostly sunny. Other current regional weather features at this time: an area of low pressure to the north or northwestern Bahamas, a weakening stationary front across Mexico, and a high pressure ridge building across the Gulf of Mexico. That is the latest weather report and forecast on NRP Radio. With that, we've come to the end of our news presentation this morning. But before we go, here are the headlines once again. PNP President Mark Golding has blasted the JLP administration for what he calls a history of unfulfilled promises. Shadow Minister of Health once again raises concerns regarding the Cornwall Regional Hospital Rehabilitation Project. Government to spend $845 million in its continued thrust to end the shift system in schools. And in sports, British number one Cameron Norrie starts defense of his ATP Rio Open title with winning streaks. The full half-an-hour package of news in the NRP Break of Day Newscast came to you courtesy of NRP Radio, reaching you where you are, no boundaries, no limitations. Here's your invitation to join us again this evening at 6:30 for the evening news roundup. On behalf of the entire news and production teams, I am Leon Nash for NRP News. We encourage you to join this growing medium by subscribing to the channel at NRP Media JA. Feel fulfilled and informed. Have a good rest of your morning. Reminding you that if you walk, ride, or drive, make every effort to arrive alive. Have a good one.